my latest work. I am exploring a new realm. Now he can travel around the world.
المهم بس كنت أقول لك إنه وصلت.
This work of art bears the signature of the devil.
هذا شغلك يا سن؟
I've obtained a culture indirectly, an Indian culture indirectly. The person I'm playing opposite is Soraya. It's not Monica Bellucci. And so in the scene where I tell her, don't take it badly, okay, F you, I'm actually saying that to Soraya. There's no way on earth I would ever say that to Monica Bellucci in real life. I teach law and I still practice law. Indian culture is similar to Arab culture in the sense that there are these traditions. And with marriage, the tradition is that, you know, you want your children to marry into, you know, a good family with good education.
By now, most of us have watched the much talked about film, The Man Who Sold His Skin. And today we have been joined by the lead, Yahya, who will in fact, you know, be talking about the film and how the director delves deeper into two very conflicting worlds in the film, that of a Syrian refugee and also contemporary art. So Yahya, let me begin first by thanking you for giving us your time. How have you been?
Thank you for this opportunity. You know, it's really a pleasure to be speaking to you, bearing in mind that I understand that there's a lot of fans in India who watched the film and enjoyed the film, and so thank you for the invitation.
شغل بأوروبا كتير منيح. شغل مع فنان تعرفت عليه هون، هو فيه يزبط لي الفيزا وكل شيء، بس يعني أنا لسه ما.
اللقاء
تعال.
What sort of reactions, you know, have your film been getting? It's already been nominated at the Oscars under the best foreign film. But what sort of reactions have you been getting for the film? And of course, you know, your acting prowess.
Well, to be honest, the reactions we got in Venice where the film premiered were fantastic. You know, because that was the moment at which all the actors and the crew that were present at the festival discovered the film for the first time. And so that was really slightly overwhelming, you know, seeing the product of the scriptwriter and director's vision, Kauthar Ben Hania, seeing it materialize on the big screen like that in the presence of an audience at a time when cinemas had been closed. And so that was really, it was nice. We had a super long standing ovation, which kind of felt endless, and it was great. So the reaction then was beautiful, and the reaction that the positive feedback I've been getting has been great. There are mixed views, you know, because I have some friends who told me like they didn't like this aspect, they didn't like that aspect, and so ultimately you realize that also films, like any form of art, is subjective. But I'm glad that it's provoking discussions, and that it leads to mixed views, because I suppose that's the point of art in general, which includes movies.
Do you agree that there are a lot of similarities between Indian and Syrian families? I mean, I also came across a few while I was watching the film.
I mean, I have not been to India yet, but I have obtained a culture indirectly, an Indian culture indirectly from some of my good friends, and one particular very close friend of mine, Viraj Bide, who's a lawyer. And, you know, I understand that, you know, Indian culture is similar to Arab culture in the sense that there are these traditions. And with marriage, the tradition is that, you know, you want your children to marry into, you know, a good family with good education. You know, and there's a concern for just material means and just, you know, what the future holds for one's children. And so marriages are not forced, but they are, you know, thought through and arranged to some extent. And so in the story, what you have is Abir, which comes from, you know, an upper class Syrian family, Meantime, Sam is not quite at her level, and so Abir has to face the conflict of having to decide between a well-off Syrian diplomat living in Belgium and Sam, whom she loves, but who ultimately is working in a chicken factory, and finds himself working in a chicken factory in Lebanon and has no means of, and that's a choice. And so there are similarities in I suppose between my understanding of Indian culture and then Syrian culture and I suppose Arab culture. Funnily enough, I mean, to give you some anecdotes, when you go to meet someone in a family arranged encounter between a suitor and someone else, you ask the very blunt questions. It's like, do you have a house? What's your job? What's your income? And then once some of these criteria are satisfied, then we can move on to talk about what unites you in common, what you have interests in common. I personally, that's probably changing, at least in my experience in Syria, and judging from what I understand from my friend Viraj, I think it's changing in India too, probably.
Now he can travel around the world.
Your film, The Man Who Sold His Skin, also has Monica Bellucci in it. I mean, how was it? How was the entire experience of sharing the screen space with Monica Bellucci in your first film?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it was intimidating at first because she has a real presence, and she approaches her job. She approached this role very professionally. She took it so seriously, this Soraya individual that she's playing, because she's a complex character in the script and in the film. She's somewhat ambivalent. She's cold, but at the same time, part of her is caring. And Sam somewhat sympathizes with her because she's also part of a system where she's subordinate to the artist, and so she approached that very professionally. And once you get past the intimidation of first of all, of playing an important part in the film, but then playing opposite, actors and actresses like Monica Bellucci or Kundabo or Dalina Jundi, actors come with a lot of experience. It actually becomes quite, I suppose, ordinary in the sense that the person I'm playing opposite is Soraya. It's not Monica Bellucci. And so in the scene where I tell her, don't take it badly, okay, F you, I'm actually saying that to Soraya. There's no way on earth I would ever say that to Monica Bellucci in real life. She's very she's humble, she's truly humble, and she's patient too, because there were some scenes which were not easy, and she was very patient during the filming.
So how would Oscar nomination help you as an actor, and how do you think things and perception would change about Syrian actors globally?
I think Oscar nomination obviously is, as I understand it, it gives a lot more visibility to everybody who participated on the film. So the fact that it has been nominated in the international feature category means that many more people watch it. I mean, already the fact that it's been at festivals and whatnot allows the film to be promoted, and for more people to take interest in watching it. I think with the Oscar nomination, that's multiplied. And so the interest becomes in, who's the director of photography, even though he's already been at the Oscars, Christopher Aoun, who's the composer, Amin Bouhafa, who are the actors, who are the actresses. And so for me personally, I don't know yet in practical terms what impact it will have on me personally as an actor, let alone as a Syrian actor. But I think the fact that more people are watching it gives more visibility, and presumably visibility is what matters as an actor, because they can then think of you in different roles if and when, you know, they come to cast a role in one of their films, be it Bollywood, Nollywood, Hollywood, or anything really.
You are a lawyer, you know, by your degree, and you've chosen to be an actor. You know, these two worlds are not that different because there's a lot of similarities between the two. How easy was it, you know, for you to transition into the world of cinema? And, you know, what was your audition for the film like?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not sure whether I've operated a full transition. I'm currently between two worlds right now because I still teach law and I still practice law. And so it's hard to say, it's hard to describe it as a transition. But I mean, it's yeah, the two worlds are, I suppose. I mean, ultimately, acting is overlaps with any world in any profession, because I mean, you know, they say lawyers are actors. Yes, sure, but but we all have a bit of acting. You know, we all you know, we all adapt to social customs and norms. You know. To begin with, we don't tell everybody what's on our mind. You know, that's part and parcel of living in a society, is that you can't express yourself truthfully on every issue with everyone. And so, I mean, there's a part of acting in all of us, I suppose. But beyond that, I think on this role, I was contacted to audition for the role. Some years after I had decided that my transition into acting, I wasn't really gonna pursue it, just because it's so hard to depend on it financially, you know? And so this role came out of nowhere, and I was contacted initially by a Syrian actress, Zena Halla, who was helping the director cast Syrian actors. And as I understand it, Kauthar auditioned plenty of Syrian actors who were excellent, so good that she was wanting to write new roles in the film for these actors. But you know how I suppose that when you're casting a role, you're not necessarily looking for the best actor. You're looking for the actor that corresponds most loyally to the role. And so it was on me in the casting process to attempt to be as loyal as possible to the role of Sam Ali as she had written him. And so it started out with self-taped auditions, and then there was an in-person audition with the actress that plays Abir, Dalian. So she wanted to test the chemistry between us, and it worked out quite well. And so everything went from there. You know, got the role, and then you know, yeah.
There are some Hollywood films, you know, that have also captured, you know, the journey, the lives of Syrian refugees. Are you happy, you know, with the representation of the lives of Syrian refugees? Do you think it's actually been portrayed with a lot of honesty, or do you think there is a misrepresentation when it comes to Syrian refugees?
I mean, that's a tough question, because I can't think of a single film that I watched about Syrian refugees apart from Kafarnaum by Nadine Lebeki, where it's a Syrian in Lebanon. And I mean, I'm not sure what the representation has been in Hollywood of Syrian refugees, but I know that the representation of Hollywood of Arabs in general is quite sensational, in the sense that it's very monolithic in a sense. And the same goes for, you know, the representation of Mexicans, the representation of Italians, you know. And so it's tough to say, but I think what Kauthar, the director, has achieved in this film is to, you know, she's not making a documentary here, she's making a fiction film where the main character is a refugee. So it's not a film about refugees, but it's a film which evokes the theme of the perception of humans and the commodification of humans and the value that we attach to human life, as opposed to just you know, the material and the mercantile value that we attach to things, to art, and so it's more of a take on capitalism. And I think it, to some extent, it transcends the question of international asylum seeking, and it goes more into the personal contradictions that individuals face. So in the film, you see this, Sam Ali is indeed a refugee in Lebanon, but it's the very fact of him being reduced to the title of a refugee, despite the fact that he's an individual, he's a human, it's that which I think for him is uncomfortable, because in the end, I think that's the attempt on his dignity, which he then has to overcome, and his personal choice to sell his soul to the devil, so to speak, sell his skin to the artist. I think it transcends the question of refugees, and it goes into just questions of emigration. It goes to the question of just capitalism and the value the greater value that we attribute to the material and art and the free movement of art, as opposed to humanity. And that's just I suppose it's a reality. When you have a work of art which travels from outside Europe to within Europe, well, that work of art does not require state expenditure for the upkeep and the education of the work of art. It's not costly to the society. Meantime, an individual who comes from abroad does represent a cost, but also has a value. What is that value and what is the cost? And so that's something that countries and struggle with.
And just a last question quickly, why do you think The Man Who Sold His Skin should bag an Oscar under the best foreign film category? Quickly.
I haven't seen the other films, so I cannot actually say that it should. I cannot say that it should, because it would be unfair to the other films.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time and speaking to us, about your film. We really, really wish you all the best, and we would like to see the film win an Oscar.
Thank you so much, Divya, and thank you for your time, and hello to all the Indian listeners.